Gentlemen, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. A few months ago, I started adding one single teaspoon of something into my morning tea, and within 2 weeks, my wife literally begged me to stop. Not because she was worried about me, but because she said, "You've got too much energy. I can't keep up with you anymore." That's when I realized I had stumbled upon something extraordinary, something every man over 60 deserves to know. My name is Dr. James. I'm a men's health specialist and urologist with more than 30 years of experience helping older men reclaim their vitality, confidence, and performance without depending on pills, chemicals, or empty promises. Over the decades, I've seen one truth again and again. Aging doesn't destroy masculinity, neglect does. And here's the paradox. Most men believe decline is inevitable. They accept fatigue, low drive, and slower mornings as the new normal. Yet all I did was stir a single teaspoon into my tea and my body started responding like it was 25 again. That tiny act flipped a biological switch I thought was gone forever. In this video, I'll show you exactly what that teaspoon is, how it works inside your body, and why it reignites metabolism, energy, and hormonal balance naturally. No stimulants, no tricks, just real, science-backed rejuvenation. So stay with me, because in a moment I'll reveal why this one morning ritual is powerful enough to make your wife notice, and why she might be the first to say, "Please, slow down." Before we get started, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way you won't miss any of my weekly tips designed to help men over 60 feel stronger, more energetic, and more alive. And if you enjoy what you're hearing so far, drop a 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 and tell me what kind of advice you'd like me to share next. Now, before I reveal what that powerful teaspoon actually is, we need to understand why most men over 60 wake up already exhausted. Because if you don't fix what's happening inside your body each morning, no supplement or secret ingredient will ever bring your energy or confidence back. 1. The morning problem. Most men over 60 never notice. Every morning, before the sun has fully risen, millions of men over 60 sit quietly with a cup of coffee or tea, hoping that first sip will somehow bring them back to life. I know that feeling. I've lived it myself. You wake up tired even after a full night's sleep. Your body feels heavier than it used to. Your mind takes longer to switch on. You tell yourself, "I just need a few minutes to get going." But deep down, you sense something's not right. That inner engine that once roared with energy and drive now just hums quietly in the background. What's really happening isn't just fatigue, it's biology. When you open your eyes in the morning, your body releases cortisol, the main stress hormone. In your younger years, that early morning cortisol spike gave you a sharp burst of motivation. It got you out of bed, ready to take on the day. But as you age, life's constant stress, poor sleep, late-night worries, and even simple aging itself can twist that system out of balance. Instead of a short, healthy spike, cortisol stays high for hours. And when it does, it blocks the production and action of testosterone, the very hormone that fuels your strength, focus, and masculine vitality. You can think of it like this. Cortisol and testosterone are on a seesaw. When one rises too high, the other falls. That's why so many older men tell me, "Doc, I'm not depressed, but I just don't feel like myself anymore." They're not imagining it. Their body's chemistry has shifted. High cortisol leaves you anxious, restless, and unfocused in the morning, while low testosterone leaves you flat, unmotivated, and disconnected from that inner spark that once made you feel unstoppable. Then, most men make a mistake I've seen 1,000 times. They reach for the strongest coffee they can find, hoping caffeine will snap them awake. Sure, it gives a quick hit, but it also pushes cortisol even higher. The body interprets that jolt as a sign of stress, not energy. Over time, this pattern drains your adrenal system, wears down your metabolism, and creates that familiar roller coaster of energy spikes and crashes throughout the day. The other common reaction is the opposite, doing nothing at all. Maybe just sipping plain tea, reading the paper, or scrolling on the phone, waiting to feel alert. The problem is, without the right signal, your metabolism stays sluggish. Your blood sugar drifts upward. Your body keeps storing energy instead of using it. It's like leaving a car idling in the driveway. You're burning fuel but not moving anywhere. Here's the part most men never realize. Mornings are when your body is most sensitive to direction. Those first 30 minutes after waking are your biological steering wheel. What you do or don't do sets your entire hormonal rhythm for the day. You can either fuel your body to work with you or unknowingly send it into a downward spiral of stress, fatigue, and imbalance. I remember one patient, a retired pilot named Jack, who came to me frustrated. "Doc," he said, "I go to bed early, I walk every morning, but I still feel drained before lunch." We ran his labs, his cortisol was sky high, and his testosterone had tanked. He wasn't lazy or unhealthy, he was just starting every day with his body stuck in stress mode. Once we adjusted his morning ritual, just one small change, his energy returned within weeks. He called it waking up for real. That's why your morning tea matters more than you think. What you put into it, what message you send to your body at that first sip, determines how you'll feel for the next 16 hours. If you can calm cortisol while gently igniting your metabolism, you'll restore balance, the very balance most men have been missing for years without knowing it. And this is where the magic begins, because the secret lies not in avoiding caffeine or drinking more tea, but in what you add to that cup. Just 1 teaspoon of the right ingredient can flip that internal switch, transforming your sluggish mornings into hours of steady energy, calm focus, and renewed masculinity. So let's talk about what that ingredient is and why it has the power to bring your mornings and your manhood back to life. 2. The power of the morning ritual. When I talk to men in their 60s, I often ask one simple question: how do you start your morning? Most shrug and say something like, "Oh, I drink my coffee, read the news, and hope the day treats me well." They don't realize that those first few moments after waking up are the most powerful window of opportunity their body has all day. You see, mornings aren't just a time to wake up. They're a biological command center. The signals you send during those first 30 minutes dictate how your hormones, metabolism, and energy behave until bedtime. And the truth is, most men send the wrong signal without even knowing it. When I discovered this myself, it changed everything. For years, I was guilty of the same pattern. I'd roll out of bed, check my phone, drink a strong cup of coffee, and rush into the day. I was functioning, but not thriving. I wasn't sluggish, but I wasn't vibrant either. Then one morning, I decided to approach my mornings the way I tell my patients to, with intention. I replaced the rush with ritual, and that's when I realized something remarkable. My entire day began to flow differently. My energy no longer spiked and crashed. It stayed steady, calm, and grounded. My thoughts were clearer, my stress response softened, and for the first time in years, I felt completely in sync with my own body. That's the true power of a morning ritual. It's not about what you drink, it's about the message you send your body through action. When you start your day with mindfulness and the right natural ingredients, your body listens. You're essentially telling your hormones, we're safe, we're strong, and it's time to function at our best. That single message lowers cortisol, stabilizes blood sugar, and allows testosterone and dopamine, the feel-good, drive-giving chemicals, to rise naturally. It's like flipping a biological switch that says, "Today I'm in control." The magic happens when that message becomes consistent. I've seen men completely transform simply by turning their first drink of the day into an act of self-care rather than caffeine panic. Imagine this: instead of jolting your body awake with coffee, you sit quietly, breathe deeply, and stir 1 small teaspoon of something intentional into your tea. You watch the steam rise, you take that first slow sip, and your body receives the signal. Calm strength. Within minutes, you can feel it. Energy without anxiety, alertness without agitation, focus without the fog. I've seen this ritual help men who had given up on feeling young again. They come back after a few weeks and tell me, "Doc, I don't know what's happening, but I feel sharper, lighter, more alive." It's not a miracle, it's physiology done right. The act of creating a ritual itself improves brain chemistry. It lowers inflammation markers, steadies heart rate, and primes your metabolism to burn rather than store. It's the difference between reacting to your day and leading it. And here's the part that most men overlook. The ritual itself becomes addictive, in the healthiest way. Once your body starts recognizing that morning calm, it craves it. You wake up looking forward to that moment, not because of caffeine, but because it feels like returning home to yourself. You stop fighting fatigue and instead you start fueling vitality. That's why I tell every man over 60, your first drink in the morning can either drain you or define you. The choice is yours. The ritual is the reset button your body has been waiting for. And the beauty of it? It doesn't take a complete life overhaul. It starts with one intentional step, the 1 teaspoon I'm about to share with you. Because what you stir into that cup could be the spark that reignites everything you thought age had taken away. 3. The first teaspoon, Maca root powder. When I first heard about Maca root, I'll admit I was skeptical. I had spent years in clinical practice studying hormones, metabolism, and male vitality. So when a patient told me he'd been adding something called Peruvian ginseng to his tea and felt like he'd turned the clock back 20 years, I smiled politely but kept my doubts. But after the 3rd, 4th, and 5th man said the same thing, men in their 60s who had been struggling with a low energy, low mood, and fading drive, I decided to test it myself. What I discovered was astonishing. Maca root isn't a miracle drug. It's a humble root vegetable that grows high in the Andes in conditions so harsh that only the strongest life survives. That resilience is part of what it gives to the men who use it. When I first mixed 1 teaspoon of gelatinized maca powder into my morning tea, I didn't expect much. The flavor was earthy, almost nutty with a soft sweetness, like a hint of butterscotch. But within days, I noticed subtle changes. I was waking up before my alarm, my focus was sharper, and that heavy cloud of fatigue that usually hung over my mornings began to lift. My patients began to describe the same thing. "Doc, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like myself again." Here's why it works. Maca doesn't contain hormones, but it talks to the system that controls them, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or HPA. That's the command center where your brain and body decide how much testosterone, cortisol, and DHEA to produce. As we age, stress and time throw that system out of rhythm, and it starts sending the wrong signals. Maca helps to restore that communication, allowing your body to naturally regulate itself again. The result isn't a spike or artificial surge, it's balance. You feel energized, calm, and alive, not jittery or overstimulated. There's also something deeply psychological about it. When a man starts feeling that subtle fire return, that quiet morning confidence, that mental sharpness, that spark of desire, it changes everything. One of my patients, a 64-year-old retired teacher, told me, "It's like my body remembered how to be me again." He said he'd been waking up earlier, feeling motivated to move, to get outside, to be intimate again. Not because of vanity, but because he finally felt vital. That's what I love about Maca. It doesn't just restore hormones, it restores identity. It reminds you what it feels like to inhabit your own body fully again. Most men don't realize how much low energy steals from them, not just physically, but emotionally. It dims the joy of simple things, the curiosity of the day, even the connection with the person they love. Maca begins to reverse that by reviving both body and spirit in a completely natural way. If you decide to try it, I recommend using gelatinized maca powder. It's cooked, which removes starch and makes it far easier to digest. 1 level teaspoon stirred into warm tea or even coffee is enough. Take it daily for a couple of weeks, and you'll notice something shift. A clearer mind, more stable mood, a body that feels lighter and more willing to move. You won't need to force motivation. It starts to flow naturally again. And yes, your partner will notice too. The energy, the playfulness, the focus, they all return in ways that can't be hidden. I've had men tell me their wives or partners started jokingly asking, "What are you drinking in that cup every morning?" That's the beauty of it. It's not about performance, it's about presence, being fully awake in your own life again. But what if your mornings are marked not by low drive, but by something deeper? Constant tension, restless sleep, or that wired yet tired feeling that never seems to end. Because while Maca lights the spark, there's another powerful root that calms the storm. And that's what we're about to talk about next. 4. The second teaspoon, ashwagandha root powder. If maca is the spark that reignites your inner fire, then ashwagandha is the calm that keeps that fire burning steady. I first learned about ashwagandha years ago while studying Ayurvedic medicine, but it wasn't until I personally began using it that I understood its real power. At that time in my life, I was overwhelmed. Between my practice, research, and family responsibilities, my body was running on fumes. My sleep was shallow, my mind restless, and my patience, something I used to take pride in, was disappearing. That's when I revisited this ancient herb whose name literally means the strength of a horse, and in a way that name couldn't be more fitting. Ashwagandha doesn't jolt you awake like caffeine, and it doesn't flood your system with stimulation. Instead, it quietly rebalances what stress has thrown out of order. When I began adding just 1 teaspoon of it to my morning tea, I noticed something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not drowsiness, not sluggish calm, but a deep steadiness, like my nervous system finally took a long, slow breath. It's one of those changes that sneaks up on you. You don't wake up one morning transformed, you simply realize that you've stopped feeling like you're in a constant fight with your own body. Most men over 60 don't realize how much chronic stress steals from them. They think fatigue and irritability are just part of getting older. But physiologically, what's happening is that constant stress is keeping their cortisol levels too high too long. And as cortisol rises, testosterone drops. The body stops building and starts breaking down. It eats into your energy, your sleep, and eventually, your confidence. Ashwagandha's genius lies in its ability to interrupt that vicious cycle. It tells your body, you are safe. Once your system believes that, it starts to heal. One of my patients, Richard, a retired engineer in his 70s, once told me that ashwagandha made him feel like his mind had stopped buzzing. It's not that I have more energy, he said, it's that I don't waste it anymore. That's exactly what happens. When you're not constantly burning energy and tension, your body can finally use it for what matters: repairing, thinking, moving, and living. Ashwagandha's effects go far beyond mood. Studies show it can lower blood pressure, improve sleep quality, and even enhance muscle recovery. But what I find most fascinating is how it restores emotional balance. Men who have been short-tempered or anxious for years suddenly find themselves calmer, more grounded, and more patient, with others and with themselves. Their wives notice it too. I've had women come into my clinic and say, half-jokingly, "Doctor, I don't know what you gave him, but he's a different man." The taste of ashwagandha is earthy, slightly bitter, and strong. I like to mix it into a spiced tea, something with ginger or turmeric, and a little honey. It doesn't need to taste perfect, it just needs to remind you that you're doing something good for yourself. I tell my patients that every sip is a small act of defiance against stress. You're taking control back from the chaos of modern life. One calm breath at a time. Give it 2 or 3 weeks and you'll feel the difference. The nights will grow quieter, the mornings will feel lighter. You'll wake up not just rested but restored, and as your cortisol settles, your testosterone begins to find its rhythm again. You'll notice it not only in your energy but in your confidence, in how you handle pressure, and in the ease with which you move through your day. But what happens when your biggest challenge isn't stress, but the slow, creeping weight gain around your midsection, the sugar cravings that come out of nowhere, and the afternoon crashes that steal your focus? That's when the next teaspoon comes in, a warm, fragrant spice you already know, but probably never realized could transform your metabolism and your energy all at once. 5. The third teaspoon, Ceylon cinnamon powder. If there's one ingredient that truly surprised me with its power, it's cinnamon. Not the cheap brown powder most of us sprinkle on toast or oatmeal, but true Ceylon cinnamon, the kind once reserved for kings. I still remember the first morning I stirred a teaspoon of it into my tea. The aroma alone was enough to stop me in my tracks. Warm, sweet, almost comforting, like a memory from childhood. But what it did for my body over the next few weeks was nothing short of remarkable. I wasn't just feeling more energetic, I was more balanced. My energy stopped swinging up and down. My afternoon crashes vanished. and that stubborn layer of fatigue that used to cling to me after meals began to fade away. Here's what most men over 60 don't realize: the slow weight gain, the sugar cravings, and the brain fog that sneak up over the years often have nothing to do with willpower. They're the result of insulin resistance, the body slowly losing its ability to handle sugar efficiently. When insulin stops working properly, blood sugar levels stay elevated, your body stores more fat, and energy delivery to your cells becomes erratic. The result? You feel tired, hungry, and frustrated, even when you're eating right. But Ceylon cinnamon has a way of resetting that system. It makes your cells more sensitive to insulin again, allowing your body to convert food into energy instead of fat. It's like reminding your metabolism how to work properly again. I remember one of my patients, George, a 68-year-old retired firefighter, who told me, "Doc, I used to fall asleep in my chair every afternoon. Now I'm out in the yard working again." George wasn't doing anything drastic. He just added a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon to his morning tea every day. After a month, his blood sugar stabilized, his cravings disappeared, and his energy was steady from sunrise to sunset. That's the quiet magic of cinnamon. It works gently, but deeply. From a scientific perspective, the key lies in its active compounds like cinnamaldehyde, which boost insulin sensitivity and slow the emptying of the stomach after meals. This keeps blood sugar from spiking and crashing. But beyond the science, there's something profoundly satisfying about it. When you take that first sip of cinnamon tea, there's a sense of warmth that spreads through your body. It's not just chemical, it's emotional. It feels like nourishment. It's comfort that also heals. And unlike the temporary buzz of caffeine, cinnamon gives you a clean, sustainable lift. You don't feel wired, you feel awake. Your digestion improves, your mind clears, and even your mood lightens. There's a quiet confidence that comes when your body finally stops fighting itself. You start noticing small but powerful differences. Your pants fit better, your hands feel steadier, your thoughts are sharper. You stop reaching for that mid-morning snack because your body isn't begging for sugar anymore. Instead, it's humming steadily, efficiently, like it used to decades ago. What I love about this ritual is that it's so simple. A teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon in your tea, maybe with a touch of honey or lemon, can transform your day. It's not flashy or complicated, it's steady, consistent, and real. Just like the men I work with who've learned that true strength isn't about intensity, it's about balance. They don't need to push harder, they just need to help their bodies work smarter. So if you've been battling that creeping fatigue or fighting to lose that stubborn belly weight, start here. You might be shocked at how quickly your body responds. Because when your metabolism starts running smoothly, everything else follows. Your energy, your focus, your confidence. But while cinnamon helps you find balance in your metabolism, there's something even more powerful that ties all of this together, something beyond food or ingredients. It's the reason these teaspoon rituals work so profoundly for men over 60. It's about what happens not just inside your body, but inside your mind every single morning. And that's what we'll explore next. 6. The real reason. These teaspoons work so deeply. I've practiced medicine for more than 3 decades, and if there's one truth I've learned, it's that health transformations rarely come from big, dramatic changes. They come from the quiet, consistent choices we make every single day. Those 3 teaspoons, Maca, Ashwagandha, and cinnamon, are powerful, yes, but their real strength doesn't just come from what they do to your hormones or your metabolism. It comes from what they awaken inside you. Every time you take that teaspoon and stir it into your tea, you're doing something far more profound than adding a supplement. You're sending a message to your body and your mind that you still care, that you're still in control, that you're not giving up on yourself. For many men I've treated, this shift in mindset is the turning point. I've seen men in their 60s and 70s who walked into my office defeated, low energy, low confidence, burdened by the quiet resignation that this is just how aging goes. Then a few weeks later, they return looking different, not because they've grown younger, but because something inside them has changed. They've rekindled that spark of ownership, that subtle sense of pride that comes from taking action for their own well-being. And that, more than any powder or pill, is what restores vitality. I'll never forget one of my longtime patients, a 72-year-old man named Alan. He told me, "Doc, I didn't think it was possible to feel good again. But every morning when I stir that spoon into my tea, it reminds me that I'm doing something for me." He said it with a quiet smile, the kind that comes from rediscovering a part of yourself you thought was lost. That's what these teaspoons represent. It's not about perfection or chasing youth. It's about participation, being an active participant in your own health story instead of a bystander. There's also something deeply physiological about the ritual itself. When you wake up and perform an intentional act, something repetitive, mindful, and purposeful, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's rest and restore mode. This single shift lowers cortisol, improves focus, and primes the body for calm energy rather than chaotic adrenaline. So even before the ingredients start working chemically, your nervous system has already begun to respond. You've told your body, "I'm safe, I'm focused, I'm ready." What's fascinating is how quickly that mental shift begins to ripple into every corner of life. Men who start with a simple morning ritual often tell me they begin sleeping better, eating better, and handling stress more gracefully. Their mood stabilizes, their relationships improve, and they find themselves laughing more. And here's the beauty of it. It's not because they're suddenly disciplined or motivated. It's because the ritual itself restores rhythm to their lives. It becomes an anchor in a world that often feels chaotic. There's also a spiritual element to it that I can't ignore. When you take that quiet moment in the morning, before the noise of the day begins, you reconnect with something that modern life often steals from us: stillness. You begin the day from a place of peace rather than pressure, and that one decision carries forward in every conversation, every task, every breath. It's subtle, but it's transformative. So when I tell you that 1 teaspoon can change everything, I don't just mean in your tea, I mean in your mindset, your rhythm, your confidence. That's why your partner starts to notice, not just because you're more energetic or stronger, but because you carry yourself differently. You stand taller, you speak with more ease, you look alive again. But there's one final truth I want to leave you with, something I've only come to understand after years of working with men across the world. It's the missing ingredient that turns this simple morning ritual into a lifelong source of strength, a principle that every man who wants to thrive past 60 needs to understand. And that's exactly what we'll uncover next. 7. The final ingredient: consistency, not intensity. If there's one lesson I wish every man over 60 could learn, it's this: your body no longer responds to intensity. It thrives on consistency. The younger version of you could power through sleepless nights, skip meals, push through workouts, and somehow bounce back. But as the decades pass, your body becomes wiser, not weaker. It doesn't need you to fight harder. It needs you to move smarter. That's why these 1 teaspoon rituals are so transformative. They're not built on extremes. They're built on rhythm, on patience, on the quiet power of showing up for yourself every single morning. I've seen men chase vitality the wrong way for years. They try every new supplement, every workout plan, every miracle fix that promises instant results. They push hard for a week, 2 weeks, and then crash. The problem isn't the plan, it's the pace. The male body after 60 isn't asking for another battle, it's asking for harmony. It wants steadiness, it wants trust. When you nourish it gently and consistently, it begins to open up again like a flame that's been waiting to breathe. When I began adding that teaspoon to my tea every morning, I didn't treat it like a magic trick. I treated it like a promise, a small, sacred act between me and my body. Some mornings I didn't feel any different, but I kept going. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, things began to shift. My focus improved, my energy stayed stable, my sleep deepened. And before I knew it, the man I used to be, the one who faced each day with drive, clarity, and calm, was back. Not because I forced change, but because I allowed it. I tell my patients this all the time: the body has an incredible memory. It never forgets how to heal, how to grow, how to thrive. It's just waiting for you to give it a reason. And that's what consistency does. It gives your body a reason to believe in you again. It rebuilds trust between your mind and your cells. You start to feel aligned again, like every system in you is finally moving in the same direction. That's when the real transformation begins, not in a week, but in the quiet repetition of a daily ritual done with intention. One man once told me something I'll never forget. He said, "Doc, I used to think getting older meant slowing down. But now I realize it just means I have to treat my body with more respect." That's it. Respect. Every teaspoon you stir into your morning tea is an act of respect for your energy, your hormones, your future. It's how you tell your body, "I'm still here. I'm still in this." You don't need to chase youth. You just need to honor the life you've earned and keep fueling it the right way. Consistency also teaches something deeper: patience. And patience is powerful. It's what separates the men who simply age from the men who continue to evolve. When you give your body time, it rewards you with stability. Your mornings start brighter. Your movements feel smoother. Even your mind feels lighter, sharper, more focused. You stop living in survival mode and start living in alignment, with energy that lasts, confidence that doesn't fade, and a quiet sense of peace that carries you through the day. So don't underestimate the little things. 1 teaspoon, 1 cup of tea, 1 small moment of self-care. Done every morning with purpose, it can become the foundation of an entirely new chapter in your life. It's not about speed, it's about staying steady, about keeping the fire burning slow and strong. And in a moment, I'll share the message I want every man over 60 to carry with him. The truth about what really happens when you commit to these simple daily rituals and how they can restore not just your strength, but your sense of self. Because the real magic isn't in the teaspoon, it's in the man who chooses to lift it every single morning. Conclusion: the morning that changes everything. If you take one message from this entire lesson, let it be this: transformation doesn't begin in the gym or in a doctor's office. It begins in the quiet of your own kitchen with a cup of tea and a single intentional act. 1 teaspoon at a time. Whether it's Maca to reignite your spark, Ashwagandha to calm your nerves, or Ceylon cinnamon to balance your energy, these are more than ingredients. They're symbols of self-respect. I've watched men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s come back to life through these simple habits. Their faces soften, their eyes brighten, their energy returns. And it all starts with the choice to do something small every day with purpose. I've lived it myself. I've seen how 1 teaspoon can restore not just vitality, but hope. So tomorrow morning, when you stand over your cup, take a moment, breathe, stir with intention. Because what you're really mixing into that tea isn't just a supplement, it's a promise to yourself, a promise to stay strong, stay present, and never stop becoming the man you were always meant to be.